Hi here, Joe at Woolly Cottage. I'm I'm doing a bit of pottering, but work pottering, and I'm sorting through a really lovely Wensleydale fleece that I got from a friend, Mark Jones. You'll find him at Will Fairs. He does fleeces and things like that, and does recently did a demonstration at the Dumfries and Galloway show. I can't remember the name of it now. It was just a new one that started up. And he does shearing demonstrations. So anyway, uh, I know I can get Wensleydale fleece off of him. I usually buy Blueface Leicester from a breeder down in Wales. No, Mark is from Wales as well, um, Carnarvon sort of way. But I haven't been able to get a whole. It's not that I haven't. I just keep forgetting to message her to get Blueface Leicester so I could get a new batch of locks up because I am starting to run out, and I've found a load in my bags the other day there that I'm like, oh, I've not even got these up on the website. I need to get these sorted. It's not a lot, but there's a little selection. Anyway, I haven't had long locks in for a while. Stop it, dog. I haven't had long locks in for a while. And when I'm processing locks, I do the long locks slightly different from what I do with the short locks. And this time round as well, I want to dye them so they've got a colour gradient, or I can use multiple colours, but there's actually a beginning, a start, or a fade through them. Usually with my locks, and I'll put some pictures up later. Usually with my locks, I tend to just put them, especially shorter ones, just in a tray once they're all been washed and soaked. In a tray, and then just sprinkle my dye around, and then you end up with multiple colours in different variations on the locks. But with these ones, I literally want to try and have some control over them. But what I thought we'd do with you today, because this is a video for YouTube, and the other section of the video, which will be dyeing, will be on my Patreon video, on my Patreon platform. If you'd like to go over there and join us over there, you get your first 7 days free over on Patreon, and then you can commit to as a member for £3 or £5 a month. Just remember, as I always say, if you've got an iPhone, don't download the Patreon application. Go on to your Safari, your Firefox, or Yahoo, or whatever platform search engine you use for accessing the internet, and go on to Patreon directly from there and look up Woolly Cottage, and you'll find me over there. Because the Apple App Store charge a fee for using the Patreon app. So what you're paying, we're not receiving that full amount of money. So just for talk's sake, I charge £3 for the cheapest membership, and they may put 75 pence on top of that. You're paying that £3.75. But I'm only receiving my £3 that goes into my Patreon, plus I have to pay fees to Patreon as well. But I don't see that 75 pence. That goes straight to Apple. So to avoid that, if you have an Apple device, like a tablet or your mobile phone, do not access the app. Go straight onto the search engine, and then you will not have to pay that fee. Okay, just remind, and that's not just for me, that's for anybody on the Patreon platform. So I have these gorgeous long Wensleydale locks, and these ones I'm putting in the sink in bundles. I've weighed them out to 30 with the intentions that I'll get 25-gram long lock bundles, and I usually sell these on the website for about usually £8.50, £9, depending on the quality of what they look like when they come up. I will be putting some up. I will put a couple of bundles aside that won't be dyed. They will just be natural locks, because I know that there are a few of you out there that always message me now and again, have you got any natural? I'm like, no, I dye them. But I will put a couple of bundles aside, and I won't dye them. But yeah, so this is what I do. It's a bit of a windy process, but I'm really, really lucky, because this is a pretty, I mean, I'm literally getting the odd little barb and a little bit of grass. Oh, excuse my kitchen light, it's really dark in here today. So a little bit of grass, I just flicked on the floor because I haven't done the hoovering yet. You aren't the only ones, you know. I've got more than enough to do without having to stand and do the blinking hoovering and the mopping and all the rest of it. So I weigh them out in my normal digital scales and a little basket. I've got some mercantile cotton there, and I literally just click it on, and I'm looking for roughly 28 to 29 grams. Now I'm going with that because it's still got the lanolin on them, and it adds a little bit of weight to the locks. So I'm literally just going to put them in that basket. I'm at 10 10 grams now, and I grab the tips and I pull like that so the cut end comes off and I don't end up fluffing it out too much. I want the tips to be in a good looking like locks. If I pulled from the cut end, I'm not going to demonstrate it because I don't want to waste any, but if I pulled it from the cut end, potentially I could be splitting locks, and I don't want to do that. So I generally just grab the lock end and I pull up from the fleece, and I try and pull it as well from the fleece in the sense that I roughly know where the beginning and the end. There's the cut end under there, and there is the outside section. So I find an area that's on the outside of that fleece, and I just pull that off very gingerly, carefully. So what we got now? Hold on a minute. 29. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to set that to one side. I've got 1, 2 there. So this is roughly about 100 gram worth of locks that I'm going to do in one specific colourway. So I'll plonk that there for a moment, and I will move my scales out of the way, grab my cotton. Now, can you ever find a pair of scissors in the house when you need them? Not in my house. Not in my house. So what I'm going to do now is get my pulled locks, and I'm going to make sure that I can separate quite a few of them, because this is what I like to do. It's one way of me processing the locks in such a way. I would do this anyway if I was putting the locks into the dye tray and just doing willy-nilly colours, so they marble in together. So yeah, so, and it's another way for me just to verify that the locks are in a good state to work with. Plus, if there's any bits of grass or barbs in there, I can see them and take them out at the same time. There we go. So I've got a little bundle here. So again, I pull it from the tip and pull outwards, and it just means that that lock stays in its true form, and I just keep on going like that. I've been at this. I've got roughly about 200 grams in the sink now, and I've got this one here to do, and I want to do 400 grams of dyed locks in my bundles, and I want to do 100 grams of undyed locks. Can I split that one? See, that one looks quite grouped together, but it will split apart with a bit of control. And I want 100 grams of undyed locks, so they can go on the website as well, especially with Christmas around the corner and people might want to do Santa beards or whatever, and you don't want dyed locks. Then I'm actually going to make a point of not dyeing 100 grams of them. So I just put them in a bundle in my hand. I double check that there's nothing strange sat inside it. No beasties, no bugs, because you get them now and again as well. So at least this way you can see that I do process my locks by hand. I do take my time to do them and make sure they're all split. Even when I do, as I say, the multicoloured ones, I'd always prepare them really carefully and split them. If I don't do it before that, I dye them when I do my multicoloured ones, then I go through the exact same process afterwards once they're dyed. This has got some sticky parts in it where the lanolin, the fleece has been sat in a bag for a while. It's a bit darker. Sat in the bag for a while, and it's got this greasy spot, so it feels a bit sticky on my hand, but I don't mind. It's good for my hands and my skin. Hopefully my nails, I've got really, really brittle nails. No matter how much I try and grow them, they always split within a couple of days. So a bit of lanolin might help me and all. Right. Keep going until I get a nice little bundle. Make sure my locks and my tips are all facing the same direction. And use my hand as a bed and make sure all the tips are roughly about the same length when they're sat in my hand. As in, the tips are sat together at the end of my bundle in my hand. Sort of all a bit aligned and a bit more uniformed, because I am going to gently, loosely tie some cotton around them and then they'll go in the sink. And I've got a batch in the sink at the moment, just having a soak. So as I say, I've weighed these out at 30, roughly about 29, 30 grams each bundle. I will reweigh them again once they're dyed and been washed and dyed, as the weight might change on them, because I just want 25-gram bundles. And then if there's any left over from each of the colourways, then I'll just put them in a mix selection bundle for the same weight of 25 grams, because they are long locks and not my shorter ones, but I usually do 30-gram bundles. There we go. Look at that. Really sweet. So now I'm going to get my piece of, and my kitchen knife, obviously, my potato knife, and I'm just going to loosely tie in a bow up the top here. Not too tight that it's squished and it's suffocated and the water can't get into the wool when it goes in the sink to soak, but enough that is gathered together and I can gently put them in the sink and they'll float around. So I've just got this one to do as well. So I'll pop off, I'll get this one done, and I will be back with you in a moment when I get them in the sink. Okay. Right, so in this sink are multiple bundles of this Wensleydale fleece. Now, it's not very greasy. Now, optimum temperature for washing fleeces is 60 degrees Celsius or 140 Fahrenheit. General rule, hand hot. Now, they say for something like merino, where it's a fine wool, you want to get to 60 degrees or 140 Fahrenheit. I've never really soaked my wools that high. I generally find that a nice hand hot temperature is enough to remove any dirt and lanolin that is on British wools. Sometimes it just means that I'd have to do a couple of soaks. You could cold water soak it overnight and then soak it, but then, to be fair, if you did that, you're more than likely end up with quite a lot of lanolin on there. I tend to just quite happily do a couple of soaks. I'll do this one with this soap, which is called, I'll show you which one I'm using, if you can just see there. Excuse the state of my kitchen, it needs revamping. Next is called Ineos Next Generation 2-in-1 Hand and Dish Wash. It's a plant-based and it's biodegradable. So yeah, usually I use one called E-Cover, but this is what I use for my fleeces, and I find it works really well. Loads and loads of bubbles in here, but this bundle here has been in here for about 40 odd minutes now, and it's looking relatively cleaner. Now once it goes in the dye tray anyway, I find that it removes a lot of the fibre, a lot of the dirt and the extra grime that my sink, that never come out my sink. But this has got to still go through a couple. See how white that is now? Yeah, in comparison to the one we've just put in, there is a slight difference. This is really quite white. That one just needs a bit longer, but you can see the colour of the water. I will empty that out in a minute, push my bundles to one side and fill the water up again, and I'll come back to you when I'm doing that in a minute. So I'm just going to rinse the sink through. It's really hard trying to film with with one hand instead of on the stand. So you can see that my locks are still in bundles. Just give them a rinse through, pop them to one side, try and separate them a little bit. I like to just run the tap through them now and again when I'm changing over my waters while the temperature's building up. Nope, sorry, filming the side of my sink, just popping them down there. It does seem like a fruitless endeavour, tying them up in bundles, right? And I totally get it, and I do agree, but I genuinely just want them all to be in the same direction when I'm working with them, and the same weight if I can help it, because what I'm doing is that I'm soaking them in the sink and washing them, but I don't want to have to, I can't guarantee that I'm going to get the correct weight per tray. So at least if they're bundled up like this for the moment, even just for soaking, it means that I know it's 4 bundles is the 100-gram weight that I want for working with for one specific colourway. Then I know where I'm at. Do you know what I mean? It seems like a long-winded process, and it is, but because I want 4 bundles of 25 grams of each colourway that I dye in the tray, then I genuinely need to have a bit of control with them, because when they're wet I can't weigh them out, because I go from soaking to the dry tray. Now if I had time I could just soak them all, get them all really clean, dry them all up, then do it all later on, like separate them into lengths and stuff like that. But for me, I'm on the ball. I like to just get on with it. Do you know what I mean? Just get on with what I need to do, get them while they're wet, straight into the dye tray. I can take the ties off them when they go in the tray, but for the moment, because I want specifically these four lots of bundles in each colour mix that I'm going to be working with, and I just want to make sure I've got it right and I'm not ending up with like 120 of one lot of locks in one colourway and then only 80 grams of another. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to make my life a little bit easier when it comes to working with batches. Trying to find where that tie is on that one. You can see the water's already starting to cloud up a little. Put those in there. They're definitely a lot cleaner than they were, and I'm just going to add a bit of this soaking. So I'll do 2 soaks. Come on. 2 soaks, and then I will do 1 normal soak in a clean water without any type of grease remover in there. And that water's getting quite hot now, so I'm quite happy with that. And I do it deep enough that the fleece and the locks and everything else, I've got room to float around as well, which just helps the liquid penetrate those locks. So it's a bit of a process, and you can see how, if I'm doing, especially when I'm doing custom orders, doing it like this, getting it in the tray while they're still wet, is just so much of a simpler operation for me. If I was just taking my time and I was planning like a couple of weeks ahead, then I could quite easily just shove the fleece in, all separated locks, put them in like that without being tied up in the bundles. Then I can separate them once they're all dried afterwards, and then do them in bundles and dye them up like that. But for now, for today, I just want to get them dyed and dried. It's Thursday afternoon, and I need to get these ready for Saturday. So I'm going to have to light the fire because we've got rain coming, and I just need time to get them dried, and I don't have the time to wash, dry, separate again, bundle, get them in the tray. I just don't have time for that today or for the next few days, because it's nearly the weekend and I've got listings to do. Right, so I'll get back to you again in a minute once this has been soaked for about 15-20 minutes usually is what I do. Takes me a couple of hours to get this going, but these are looking really, really great, and I'll show you the comparison from these to the ones that have not been washed. So I've ended up with just rinsing those off from that second soak, because they're not really greasy or heavily dirty, as you saw when I was processing them. So I've managed to get away with just washing those through twice, and I know that I'm going to put them straight in the dye tray. Now these are the ones that have not been washed yet. You can see the lanolin in there on that one specifically, and in the tips, but you can see the difference, a lot cleaner. in comparison, and they've just had 2 soaks in a warm hot water, about 40-50 degrees max. So what, about 120 maybe Fahrenheit. Excuse me on my temperature translations. We deal with degrees Celsius in the UK. So yeah, so these are going to get dyed. They'll be in the next part of this video, which will be, as I say, shown over on Patreon. So if you'd like to see the rest of this and don't want to wait 6 months, please pop over to our Patreon platform, and I'll catch you over there. If not, I'll see you in a couple of weeks for a live chat. Bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe and thumbs up, and leave any comments or questions below. So back with Patreon. So these are going to go back in the sink. I have got 100 grams down in there, plus another 2 of these. They're going in the sink to soak, and I'm going to go through the same process. There's all the ones that we've done already, and these will be going in the dye trays in a bit. Now I've got 100 grams of long locks, Wensleydale long locks, to go for undyed for the time being, and I've got 100 grams which I'm just going to put in the tray and dye them willy-nilly, so that at least I've got a bundle that like that, because I do know that some of my customers like it like that as well. But the ones that are all in 30 gram, 25 gram bundles, these I want to have in a striping effect, or at least different colour gradients for dyeing with. And you'll see what I mean in a bit when I get to that stage, once this lot's all washed and soaked. Okay, so my wools are soaked. They're in the tray. I've done them so they lie with the tie bubbly end here. They've still got their ties on them, which I'm really chuffed a bit with. Sometimes you get 1 or 2 that fall out, but I'm quite happy with those. I'm leaving the tie. Am I going to leave the ties on? No, I won't. I'll take the ties off now that they're in the dish. Sorry, in the tray, because I can always retie up afterwards. But generally, I'd quite happily dye them with that in, but I'm going to do it like this. But you've seen that they're in the bundles, and as I said earlier on in the video, I prefer to do it this way, so I know that I'm putting the right amount of weight in for this specific listing when I'm in the sink, because it's just I end up with a mix match of fibres, and it just doesn't seem to work out right. So by doing this and weighing them out beforehand, it just makes my life a little bit easier, because I can just stick these straight in this sink afterwards and wash them as normal, or rinse them off as normal. This one's having a bit of fight. He's like, no, I'm not wanting to come. It's because I put citric acid in the tray, you see. So put them in there, open up those fibres a little bit. So I've done them from, you've got cut end to tips, cut end to tips, cut end to tips down here. And I like to do it this way because I end up with sort of the tips will dye, 2 of the tips will dye in like whatever first colour I do this side, and the tips will be the same, and then I'll end up with the colours in the middle looking more or less similar, and then again the tips, and those will be of whatever colour I finish off. But you'll see what I mean in a minute. So there's the cut off the fleece, and there's the tips. So I'm just going to tease them open a little bit so they lie a little bit flatter in the tray. So that's approximately 100 grams or a little bit over. I'm going to put in just a dash of water over the top, but not a lot, because I've done my dyes. So these ones are going to be more autumnal colours. I'm just going to grab a spoon to make sure that my pot's warm water with my dye stock is lovely and dissolved. They've been sat on the side for a little while, and I'm just using straight out the tap hot water. So what I've got sage green, and I'm just going to pour this along here like that. I'll get my fingers in there in a minute. Then I've got lichen going next. Pour that over the top, and then I'm going to get my last colour now, which I'm using cayenne red Dharma dyes. These are all Dharma dyes that I'm using. And when you place your dyes, you need to think about what they're going to look like when they blend into each other. So obviously I don't want red and green together if I can help it, because you'll end up with a murky brown. So I try to keep them away from each other. So I've got honey mustard here. And then my last one is tobacco. So the other week on my live chat over on YouTube, somebody asked me in the Q&A over there, how much water do you put in when you're dyeing? Now, as I explained, and I've explained with you guys, said to you guys before as well, when you're working with separate colours like this, you don't want the water to be above the fibre, because the water with the colour in. You don't want the dye stock to be over and floating above the top of these, because the colours of the dye will just blend in together and you'll end up with a really wishy-washy, dirty brown. Can you see the colours there? So it goes from this red here. I don't want to lift the tray. Bear with me a second. So I've just popped a picture up on the screen now, where I've got this sage green, I've got the lichen green, I have this tobacco in the middle, and then I've got this honey mustard, and I've got the cayenne red, all in this tray. So I've made sure that the colours, if they do mix, they're going to look nice together. If the pigments bleed into each other, then that's fine. It's not going to look bad. But what I really don't want to do is add a colour that's going to really turn it brown and mucky and not really attractive. And I really want these to have an identity of their own. I want that autumnal look in these locks, like the crunchy leaves changing for the autumn all the way through into the red. So I'm just going to put the heat on now. Excuse me, I've got the hiccups. Put the heat on now. There's already citric acid on the locks. If there's any lanolin still in the locks, then hopefully that'll dissolve out in this water. Plus they're going to get another soak in the sink to bring up the pH balance as well afterwards. So we're going to let that do its thing, and I'll get back to you in a minute once these are all ready, and I can show you what I'll show you what the water should look like once it's set. Okay. Right, so that is my locks dyed. All the colours saturated away. Where's the towel when you want one? Never one anywhere exactly where you need it at the time, is that? So I'll just give this a tilt up. Excuse my oven. I never clean my oven after I've made dinner or whatever it is I've been making when I've got dyeing to do, because I just don't see the point of cleaning it out twice. So I've made sure all the water, see there, is completely saturated away into the wools. Everything, the water is clear. So that's taken about 15-20 minutes max on a really low heat, as much as I can get. So I'll get this in the sink, and then I'll get my next bundle in the tray, and we'll do the next colourway. So I've added a little bit of water just to the base of that tray. It does two things. One, it helps cool down that tray, because it's the exact same dye tray as I've just used, so the metal's hot. But also it means that my citric acid granules will help to dissolve a little bit quicker as I put the wool in. So if I just give it a little bit of a shush around, there's still enough heat in the bottom of there to start dissolving those crystals. Okay, I just want to get my towel and give that a bit of a rub down. So I'm going to get my next 4 lots of locks. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to leave the tie bundles on this one this time. So I've got one up there. Give it a little bit of a shush around. And I'm going with pinks and grey this time round. So we'll give that one a bit of a shush about. And there's my next bundle. So you can see I've got cut end, tail, tail, cut end. There's the cut end and the tip there, and then the same on this one. I just want to straighten this out a little bit. Make sure it's a bit more even, and then like so. Okay, so I'm going to get my dyes. So I'm going with soft grey up the top here, which I think this one's platinum, and then I've got amethyst this end, and then I've got thunder there. This is where you have to be really careful now. And then I've got, oh shit, like a ballerina pink here. And then I've got a berry in the middle. No, I think I've actually gone for mauve here. Now, I don't mind having the darker colour bleeding in with my greys, like so, and I'll pop a picture up in a sec. So I've got the light grey going into dark grey, I have got this antique mauve, and then I've got this, I think it's pink orchid, and then I've got the amethyst pink up here. Now it's a little bit floaty, there's a little bit too much liquid in those pots. I had 200 millilitres and I could have probably done with just sticking at 150, but we're going to wing it. I'm just going to turn this on now, and I'll take a picture for you so you can see what they look like close up. So there's a picture up close so you can see what they look like. These shouldn't take too long. If I feel like the dye isn't saturating into the locks properly, and I'm still left with dye stock because it's really strong pigment, then there's nothing to stop you from adding a little bit more citric acid over the top just to help work that chemical bonding together. So I'm going to leave that like that for now. I'm going to give it, stop sticking your fingers in hot water, Joe. Just give that a little bit of a squish, let the colours bleed into the pink with that antique mauve, and let the antique mauve bleed into the darker grey here as well. I'm just going to, there we go. So I'm just going to let that do its thing, gently simmer away for the next 15-20 minutes, and then I'll get back to you. Okay, so obviously it's really hard to show you the dyeing process and everything else, but there's a lot of it just a waiting game. These ones did soak up in the water really, really quickly. So these have only been in the water, you're lucky if it's 10 minutes. They went really, really quick. And I love how you've got that colour fading from the bright pink into the dusky mauve and then into the grey tones. It looks really pretty. But then if you look, it's the reverse, and this is why I like to top and tail them. It's the reverse, so there's the tail end which is in the greys, then into the antique mauve, and then into the pink tips. Really pretty. So these are going to go in the sink now. I've got, what's my next colours? Oh, I've got fluorescent pink, 2 shades of purple, turquoise, and spearmint breeze. So a bit of a Northern Lights sort of feel going on. So I'll go and get those and we'll get the tray filled up. Right, next stage, let's get these locks. So again, I'm going to do the top and tail in the layer and out, because I just like the way they come out. And it means if I want to mix the locks up, as in have them swapped around, like open up the bundles and have some 25 gram bundles with a mixture of the 2 different ways, then I can do. If I want to sell them where they're in the original bundles as is, then that's not a problem neither. So let's get these in here. So they've all been washed, as you know, if you see me doing them. And now I've got snags on my nails, so the wool keeps catching in my fingernails. Right, so I just want to try and spread these sections out a little bit, just so they fill up my gaps. So I'm going to start with my purple up this end. And I'm just going to hold off a little bit because I don't want it floating around the water. So we're going to see how this works. And then I've got my green this end. Grab my next purple and my turquoise blue. So my blue I want over the top of here. And again, you need to really think about how your colours are going to sit together in the dye tray. What they're going to look like when they bleed. Are they going to have a brown, mucky, horrible sort of look to them? Or are they going to complement each other if they bleed into each other? So pink, blue is going to go a purpley colour. Pink into purple is going to still stay a purpley colour. So this is my light reflective pink. And this is, I'll use my tongs for this because it's quite a treacherous beast, the fluorescent pink. And I'm just going to dab it down. There we go. Dab this bit down so the darker purple seeps into the cut ends, which is quite bulky, so I do need to make sure that it's saturated in there and the dye comes all the way through. And then again, dab my blue, turquoise and pink in together. I don't mind those bleeding in. Right, now compress the blue sections in here like so, and then just dab along the top here where this spearmint green is, which is almost an aquamarine, so it's really quite pretty. And I'll take a picture of that so you can see what these look like. And I will just get some extra citric acid. And we'll sprinkle that on as is. Put the heat on it. This one may take a little bit longer because the pink and the turquoise can sometimes take a little bit extra time to permeate into the actual wool locks. And I do have some of that purple left over. So that's my darker purple, and we'll just cover some sections, and that's the rest of that used up. So I'll get on with getting these rinsed up and go and check my locks in the sink. So this one again, it's all saturated away. It looks lovely. So there is the green through to the purple tones. Look at that. That's amazing. So that one's done, and then we've got it on the reverse with the cut ends of the locks. Try and take away that strand there into the tips of the locks like that. See, that's cool. So these are going in the sink. We'll do one more colourway with you, and then I'll get you at the end of this in a sec, but we'll do the same layering. So I've got just a little dribble of water in the base there. Spilt half of that all over the floor. Citric acid in the tray. And then I think what we'll do is I've got 2 large bundles of locks already washed up. Let's try and undo this. It's never easy when you're doing things one-handed, is it? Try and do this. Right. There we go. So that's untied. And we'll just do these how we did the first lot originally. So we've got the tied end like so. Tied end, the cut end. And just undo this bow. Try and get this undone. There we go again. Now you could, if you wanted to, lay them so they're facing upwards, and then layer these ones, again the cut end from the fleece up that end, like so, if you wanted to. So we'll dye them like that. So instead of layering width-wise like I had, we'll do them lengthways. So I've made sure that both, that's got the cut end of the fleece with the tail tips at this end, and then this one here, the cut end with the tail tips sitting underneath. Okay, so I'm just going to get my dyes. And this one will create a different type of dyed effect because I'm doing the striping all the way down as I would normally do, but this time I'm not thinking about whether they're going to mirror image each other. So I'm using two different colours of shades of blue on this one, and I'm going to have to just move my tray around a little bit because it's really soaking into the bottom and I don't want it to do that yet. Now I've got this little, I think it's lichen I've used, I can't remember, we'll have a look in a second. Actually it's honey mustard, so this may change a sort of greeny colour because it's going to bleed in with the blue. So we'll put that like that. Then we've got this peachy colour, so that will blend in like so. And then we have champagne. So remember, all the colours that I'm using are Dharma dyes. They're my general go-to dyes these days. But you can use, if you're looking for just small samples of dyes, I advise you, if you're in the UK, go to World of Wool. They've got a lovely little get a starter selection of dyes. Adelaide Walker used to, and Wing and Wool used to do Ashford dyes, if I remember rightly, and they actually do hair colour in the Ashford dyes as well. I can't remember which one it is, but like if you wanted auburn or proper ginger or blonde and things like that, or strawberry blonde, they don't actually do the colours that you can use for dyeing those colours there. Hold a second, I need to go and shut my back door because it's absolutely pouring down and my back kitchen floods, so hold on a minute. Alright, so I've got these colours dyeing away now, well, saturating into. You'll be interested to see how these look, what these look like afterwards. And I wonder if the blue is able to permeate through this bottom layer of locks that we've put. Remember now we've got two layers. We've got one going bottom to middle, and we've got this one going from this end to the middle. And I mean that in the sense of we've got the cut end of the fleece next to the sheep up this end, and then there's the tail tips, and then this is the cut end again, and the tail tips are sitting underneath these ones. So it'll be interesting to see what these look like. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit. I've used navy blue, blue steel, golden, not honey mustard, macaroni and cheese, champagne, and I think it's honey mustard I've used as well. So we'll see what this looks like, and I'll show you before I put them into the sink. Okay, so I've seen that my blue's so strong that it's not soaking up as much, and you can see as well here where the blue is actually mucked into the yellow and is nearly disappeared. So there's not much colour definition there, but as I say, it'll be interesting to see what they look like. Not to say that they won't sell, but it's not really what I was looking for. But it's good to be able to experiment, so at least if it's a question that is had on your mind, then I've shown you potentially what could go wrong. So I'm just waiting for this blue now to penetrate in a little bit more. That's not too bad that side, but this one here is really quite dark still, and I need that to saturate through into there. But we're nearly done. I like this bit here, that's quite nice. But this is what I was on about with the mucking of colours. When it bleeds through, you need to really think about what colours do with each other when they bleed into each other. This is going to end up with like a brownie colour with the orangey tips, which might look really nice, as I say, but we were looking for something with a bit more definition. So maybe just doing them the width-wise was the better option, rather than doing it like this. Or then again, we maybe less blue and just sticking with one colour of blue and it toning through. That might have been better, because then I wouldn't have had as much darker liquid stock bleeding through into the lighter colours. But that's what it's all about. It's about having a bit of an experiment, playing, see what you can achieve, what results you like and what results you weren't that impressed with. So I think I'm just about done with this. I don't want to leave it on there for much longer, in case it starts to felt. So we're going to get this in the sink, let it have a soak, and I will get back to you in a minute. So they're spun off. They're not dry yet. They've been spun off in the spin dryer. So they won't take long to dry up at all. I will have to undo the strings and pull them apart a little bit, because they do sort of combine together a little bit at the top. So you just want to undo these and release the locks. So these are the ones that were tipped and tailed in the dye pot like that. Okay, so you've got the greys going into the pinks down there. So everyone likes their own sort of versions of that. I quite like it this way, but that's just as nice as well. It looks like it's more dominant pink and that's more dominant grey, but they're exactly the same, from the same dye pot. They've just been put in a different way. Next up we've got this one. So you've got the aqua down here in the turquoise, and then it goes into the pinky colours and then the purples, and then you've got the reverse this way. I like this version more than that version, but there you go. So that's another, so there's two of each top and tail of those sets. Then we have got, this is the one we did last, so I'll pull it up a little bit, where we layered the tops and tails in the tray. So the yellow, and then you've got the blues here, which is fine. This is the result of the blue one, and we have still managed to save some of the orange, which is perfect, and we've still got orangey tips there. So that isn't a problem at all, and it's actually turned out quite nice. Sometimes you have a bit of a panicky moment thinking, oh, it's really bled into that, I'm gonna completely ruined it. But it isn't. You've got these coppery tones in there, and it's actually really quite pretty. And also when you do things like this as well, when you go to dye wools or you want to put new colours together, you may think, oh well, I never thought of putting a pinch of this and a pinch of that in my dye stock solution to get that colour. I'll take a note of that and the ones that I did, and maybe experiment next time. So this is the one that I did to start with, the autumnal colours. So there's the cane red, and then it goes into these coppery colours, lichen, and then this green at the top, and then we've got the reverse of that one. I prefer starting off with the green colours at the bottom and then going into these tobaccos and oranges and stuff like that. As I say, all of these need a bit of prep work now once they're dried. This one I did after I finished filming. I forgot I had still another set of locks to do. This starts off sandy coloured, a soft yellowy cream, and then the pistachio, then the blue, and then there's a touch of grey up there. So I did them ones afterwards. So that's the results of those, and that's that. Oh, covering myself up there. So if you enjoyed that video today, please do hit that subscribe and like on the channel on YouTube. It really does help me grow. Even though this is a Patreon version of the video, it will get released in the next few months. But thank you ever so much for watching. Please do put any comments, questions or thoughts or ideas down below so I can put together. Sorry, I got disconnected. I had a phone call coming. So as I was saying, please do like and subscribe if you don't already over on the YouTube channel. Finally made it over 1,000, so that's absolutely brilliant. 1,008 I'm at now. So if you know of anybody that can find my videos useful, or if you've got any friends that want to come over and join us on the Patreon content, then please do like and subscribe and share any links that you get. And remember to say that your first 7 days on Patreon are free to any friends, families, or anyone that you know that might be interested in watching and following along with us over here in this little community. I'll give you an update on where I am with the book in September if you are interested in that. Please do put your comments. I've not been able to put together a Q&A this month at all. I know it's been the summer holidays and everyone's been really busy, so hopefully you'll find some time now that the kids will be going back to school in the next week or two to come and help me put together some really good content and get a really good Q&A and a demo done for September. Anyway, that's me. I'm off now. Take care, and I'll catch up with you in a week or two. Bye for now.